The chamber was too grand for mercy. Carved from starlight-infused obsidian and suspended over the writhing surface of a white dwarf star, the Senate of Galactic Order prided itself on theatrical scale. Light shimmered through translucent floors. Dozens of alien species lined the floating tiers. Elegance oozed from the curved spires and ceremonial silks. It was less a hall and more a declaration. You are small here. The human stepped in as if she hadn't noticed. General Ada Sterling wore no ceremonial armor, no feathers or medals. Her gray uniform looked plain, deliberately unadorned. She walked with the poise of a librarian, not a warrior. A mug of coffee, ceramic, chipped, rested in one hand. It read, in faded English, "World's best grandma." Alien heads turned, tentacles curled, plated brows furrowed. Zarkthal, the scaly brute from the Rithake Dominion, leaned toward his peer and sneered. Is that Earth's new negotiator? Looks like she wandered in from a knitting circle. Vorenus, whose species resembled hovering silk fans with lips, twitched her fringe in disdain. I believe they sent a general. Perhaps that's what passes for one among mammals. Ada arrived at her podium. She looked around the room, smiling faintly, eyes soft behind crow's feet and steel. Esteemed counselors, she said gently, thank you for having me. I do apologize. Traffic around the singularity belt was murder. And the coffee here tastes like someone boiled sadness. An awkward pause. Laughter flared, tentative, from the lower delegation ranks. Ada took a slow sip from her mug, letting silence stretch just a little longer. Blintax, the small-eyed bureaucrat from the Numeri Consensus, cleared his throat. General Sterling, it's a pleasure. The Council welcomes Earth's representative to this emergency forum. Thank you, Administrator. She nodded kindly. Though if I may clarify, I'm not Earth's representative, just a grandmother with some questions. The silence sharpened slightly. Zarkthal thudded a clawed fist against the railing. Let's get on with it. The humans called this meeting after losing another colony. Again, you're not the first to lose to pirate raids, General. Grow a thicker hide. Ada smiled. Oh, I don't mind the raids. I'd just like to see who giggles when children burn. The room blinked and then shifted uncomfortably. That is, Blintax began, then glanced down at his datapad, tapping it furiously. Yes, the Trinova 3 incident. Tragic, certainly. The logs show that regional pirates with mixed fleet origins struck it without provocation. Several systems are investigating. No known Empire fleets were involved. Ada nodded once. Is that so? A beat passed. She took another sip. Vorenus floated forward, her voice soft and vaguely amused. General Sterling, Earth has filed 6 formal complaints this year. Surely, you understand galactic law cannot chase every ghost. Resources are limited, and Earth is not a, how shall I say, critical power in the current balance. Of course, Ada said. We do tend to be overlooked. She leaned on the rail with both arms now, posture relaxed, mug resting beside her. The human's tone never changed, but her gaze began to settle deeper. Less interested in being seen, more interested in seeing. I wonder, she mused, if your children were aboard, Counselor, would your resources still be limited? A hush. Zarkthal growled low. Are you threatening the Council, woman? Ada blinked slowly. Me? Stars, no. I'm just a tired old mother who lost both her daughters in a single day. I'm asking questions. Her voice, still gentle, had a sudden weight to it, as if she'd stopped speaking to the room and started speaking through it. Counselor Vorenus, remind me, your daughter serves on the 17th Fleet, correct? Vorenus hesitated. She does. And that fleet was last seen near Trinova 3. That's a coincidence. Oh good, Ada said. I love coincidences. They usually leave fingerprints. Blintax's datapad chimed. He glanced at it, frowned. His fingers tapped a few commands. HM. We're receiving a delay in standard fleet telemetry. Likely a solar flare interference. Ada's smile widened slightly. Likely. Zarkthal snarled. You presume too much, human. No, she replied, slowly straightening. I remember too well. Her fingers touched the comm pin on her collar. It chirped once. A message queued, encrypted in ancient Morse, bounced from beacon to beacon across the galactic net. No one saw it. I'd like to request something from the Council, Ada continued. Ship logs. Precise Iden codes. Fleet deployments during the Trinova 3 timeframe. I'd like to know which ships passed through that system and who gave them orders. Blintax laughed nervously. That is highly irregular. Isn't grief, she said softly. Then she took out a small sphere from her coat. It shimmered, a basic hologram projector. She activated it. The image displayed a simple map. Starfields dotted in red. Systems names. Supply lines. Dozens of ships orbiting Trinova. 3. Time stamped. This is reconstructed from scavenged black boxes, she said. And from the memory of a dying child. My eldest. She lived long enough to say one word, Craven. An officer's name. On your peril, I believe. The name dropped like ice water. Vorenus shifted. Blintax looked ill. Craven, Ada repeated. I sent the name to your offices 2 weeks ago. You said he'd gone rogue. That he died. But these logs show his ship docked at your forward outpost last cycle. She turned to Blintax. I don't mind people lying to me, Administrator. I mind when they're bad at it. The little alien opened his mouth, then closed it again. Around the chamber, murmurs rose, unease brewing like a storm behind tightly closed windows. You're out of line, Zarkthal snarled. Then put me back in it. Ada's voice had lost none of its politeness. If anything, she sounded sweeter. You call this a meeting. But it's just a curtain call for murderers with titles. I came here to ask, just once, who gave the order? Who thought my daughter's lives were worth the price of a patrol route? And who laughed when the report called them acceptable collateral? She paused. And if no one answers me, I'll ask again. Louder. The temperature seemed to drop. Zarkthal stood fully now, enormous and armored. His tail lashed. You dare threaten the ruling empire? No, Ada said. I dare mourn out loud. She pressed a second button on the sphere. Another projection flickered to life beside the first. This one quieter. 2 girls. One with missing front teeth, the other clutching a drawing pad. A shaky hologram recording. We miss you, Nana, the older one said. Come home soon. Then static. Ada held her breath a moment, long enough that it trembled. Then she whispered, they died screaming. A beat. The chamber held its breath. Then Ada picked up her mug again. She sipped once more, closing her eyes. You mock humans for being small, weak, emotional. I understand. We are emotional. We bury our dead with songs. We hold hands. We cry. Her gaze swept the chamber, soft as ever, but flint beneath. But the difference between you and me, counselors, is this. When I cry, I plan. When I mourn, I calculate. And when I smile, it means I've already made up my mind. The silence was absolute. Ada placed her mug down on the rail. I came here to ask a question. A mother's question. One I want answered before I stop asking politely. She leaned forward slightly. Who killed my daughters? The hologram flickered. The silence stretched, then shattered. From the back of the chamber, an aide burst in, breathless. Senators. Reports from the outer sectors. 3 fleets have gone dark. What? Blintax snapped. Ada didn't turn. Her voice, soft as dusk. I gave them 2 weeks. No answers. So now I'm asking louder. She pressed her comm pin again. Send in the real message. Transmission light blinked red. The screen behind her exploded into stars, then fire. The aide's words hovered in the room like smoke. 3 fleets gone dark, he repeated, the datapad shaking in his hands. Gone. Blintax croaked, his membrane eyelids blinking rapidly. Define gone. Temporarily unresponsive? Shield disruption? Particle fog interference? No, sir. Gone. No pings. No telemetry. All signals severed within the same 11-minute window. Zarkthul's scales began to flush with heat. That's impossible. You think the humans did this? He turned toward Ada, voice booming. Tell us what you deployed, woman. Ada took another slow sip of her coffee. Her hand didn't tremble. Her eyes, soft and hooded, met Zarkthals without blinking. I deployed courtesy, she said. Twice. Nobody answered. She set the mug down with a gentle clink, as if that sound could cut through armor. Silence curled like mist around her words. The chamber, once vibrant with noise, now felt like a tomb with its mouth still open. Vorenus floated back slightly. You're bluffing. Earth doesn't have that kind of reach. You're still a Tier 5 power. Your fleets are quaint. Ada shrugged. That's what we wanted you to think. The holographic map beside her updated. 3 systems blinked red, then dimmed. Each one a station of pride for the Galactic Empire. Each one now, according to data feeds, burning. A low, trembling voice echoed from a distant council pod. But how? We monitored Earth's weapon tech. You don't have wormhole tier engines or adaptive breach algorithms. You still send mail by laser packet. Ada nodded solemnly. And you bragged about that. Said we were charming in our obsolescence. Then how? I didn't send ships, she said, cutting through the question. I sent grandmothers. They stared at her. She smiled. And programmers. And archivists. And grieving mothers who were really good with pattern recognition and asymmetric retaliation. I sent anger, wrapped in a polite email. She clicked the comm pin again. Patch through the tooth. A second hologram blinked a live, gritty, half-grain video of a woman in a dim-lit command module. She had laugh lines around her mouth and a scar down her brow. On her collar was a pin, a simple image of a baby's footprint. Jaw here, the woman said. Targets dropped, ma'am. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 awaiting validation. Ada nodded once. Hold fire. Let the silence speak for now. Zarkthal snarled. You're declaring war on the entire empire. Ada turned. No. You declared it. You just didn't notice. Blintax's datapad pinged again. He swiped, eyes widening. Counselors, we've just received evacuation requests from the Clane Crescent, Lumaport, and Vrekgate. All report. Human malware inside critical infrastructure. Ada finished for him, folding her hands. Our condolences. Malware. Vorenus sneered. What kind of virus penetrates Tier 1 code? Ada turned to her, kindly. One that looks like a coloring book file. Something simple. Familiar. Harmless. She paused. It was uploaded by my youngest granddaughter during school hours. Took her 8 minutes. We had no idea she was that clever. She wanted to draw me something pretty. Her face did not change. She died 2 hours later. A hush rippled, tight and cold. For a second, even Zarkthal didn't move. We told her the council cared, Ada continued. We told her someone out there would hold the killers accountable. I promised her that. She stepped closer to the center platform. Not marching, drifting. Not angry, focused. I sent messages. Filed reports. Met deadlines. Followed protocol. For 2 years. You called me persistent. I called it desperate. She gestured around the room. You all smiled. You said things take time. You said grief makes us irrational. She tilted her head. But we humans don't process grief like you do. We don't dissolve into spores or change colors or shed skin. We build spreadsheets. We build plans. We go quiet. And when we go quiet, Zarkthal's hand moved toward his wrist cannon. Ada didn't flinch. It's already too late. Behind her, the map updated again. Dozens of red blips marked across the quadrant, then blackened, one by one. The systems had gone silent. Blintax turned to the other counselors, desperation cracking his voice. We need to disconnect from the net. Full relay isolation. We can't trust any channel Earth ever touched. Ada sighed. That's going to be difficult. You see, we didn't just upload malware. She paused. Her eyes gleamed with that grandmother's warmth. We taught it how to wait. Vorenus trembled now, her floating appendages folding in tightly. Why didn't you warn us? Ada blinked. We did. You ignored us. A beat. Then a flicker of sarcasm. And we didn't want to sound dramatic. Nobody likes a hysterical human. Across the chamber, another aide shouted. The Central Archive just purged itself. Records, millions of records are gone. Defense protocols failing. Oops, Ada murmured. Zarkthal lunged. He cleared the platform in one furious leap, claws outstretched. His frame moved like a living blade, slashing forward, only to freeze midair. His body crackled, spasmed, and then dropped with a heavy clang. A field shimmered around Ada, dissipating calmly. It's rude to interrupt someone when they're explaining a eulogy. She looked down at the stunned brute. Stay there. Reflect. Zarkthal groaned, twitching. Vorenus spun slowly in place. This can't be sanctioned. Earth is a minor polity. This is madness. Ada nodded. We hoped it would be diplomacy. You chose madness. We just followed your lead. Blintax's voice was now barely audible. What do you want? That question hung in the air. Ada turned away from the chaos and folded her hands again. She looked, once more, like someone waiting patiently at a coffee shop. What do I want? She said, her voice soft, almost surprised. I want to know who gave the order. The room froze again. I want the name of the creature who saw the evacuation logs, the unarmed transports, the baby records, and still said fire. She stepped forward. One click of her heel echoed, like thunder. I want the being who laughed when the last message from that colony said, "We surrender. Please don't shoot." She paused, breathed in once, breathed out like it hurt. I want their face, their name, their title. And then, she smiled, small and terrible. I want you to understand what the phrase surgical vengeance really means. Zarkthal groaned again. Cowards, you struck from behind. Ada didn't look at him. You don't get to call a storm a coward. Counselor Yorex, a silent observer until now, a six-eyed mammal with shimmering skin, spoke at last. If we give you the names, you'll stop? Ada turned. Her face softened. No, but I'll stop first. Yorex held her gaze, and for a second, a flicker of recognition passed between predator and predator. I believe, he said, we've misjudged your people. Most do, she said. Once. The chamber dimmed as another system fell offline. The galaxy outside reeled, panicked, beginning to realize the depth of what Earth had done. Ada didn't look pleased. She looked tired. We asked for answers. You gave us silence. Now we're fluent in it. She picked up her mug again. Cold. She didn't mind. Behind her, the broadcast resumed, this time not from her. Another human face appeared. A young man in a leather jacket whistling. Operation Tooth confirmed. Scrubbing the next 6 targets, unless told otherwise. Say the word, ma'am. Ada didn't turn. Hold position. Let them process. Then she looked back at the council. You thought it was a meeting, she said, her voice drifting through the chamber like smoke from a battlefield. But you didn't hear the music. You missed the dress code. You forgot who lit the candles. She raised her chin, eyes shining with quiet fire. This wasn't a meeting. This was a funeral. And her smile was the eulogy. The screams came first from the feeds, not the chamber. Ada stood in perfect stillness, watching as planetary nodes blinked off the tactical hologram one by one. Her mug sat untouched. The coffee was cold now, but that didn't matter. Timing mattered. Composure mattered. Tea was for peace. Teeth were for predators. And Earth had spent too long smiling. Yorex turned toward the projection behind her, watching as the whole veil collapsed over the Drelga mines. The once busy trade artery folded in on itself, like a vein severed from its heart. They're deleting infrastructure, he said. Not just systems. Architecture, philosophy, cultural structures. Ada nodded. Precision makes the pain last longer. Vorenus flared her translucent fringe in disbelief. That's monstrous. Ada blinked at her. And your people reduced my daughters to collateral. So perhaps we're finally speaking the same language. Your retaliation is disproportionate. No, Ada said. It's calculated. The lights dimmed slightly as the chamber systems rerouted power. Somewhere deep beneath the floor, a tremor shook the spine of the station. Someone near the door muttered a prayer, not realizing that it had been intercepted by Earth's linguistic AI and translated into a file tagged irrelevant but poetic. The comm lit again. This time, a new face flickered into view. a pale-skinned woman with tight braids and soot-streaked cheeks. Her eyes were ringed with fatigue, and the insignia on her shoulder bore a serrated tooth encircling a cradle. "Soft step reporting," she said, voice crisp. 94% ghost compliance across targeted colonies. Urban server stacks vaporized. Religious nodes corrupted. We left the children's books. Ada gave the smallest nod. "You left the music?" Soft Step smiled faintly. "Uploaded every hymn they mocked. Volume maxed. Loop unskippable." Ada turned to the council again, folding her arms. "We asked for justice. We got bureaucracy. So we programmed grief instead. Hard-coded it into every cultural archive you ignored." Zarkthal stirred on the floor, groaning. What did you do?" Ada glanced down at him as though he were gum on the floor of an opera house. "We infected your roots. Not just your data. Your assumptions." She began to walk slowly, unhurried, one step per breath. "Your empire doesn't fear strength. It understands guns. It respects warships and losses. You keep score with explosions. But you don't understand memory. You don't understand endurance. You don't understand the terror of an enemy who is willing to wait. Not days, not years, but lifetimes if necessary." She stopped at the edge of the projection. "See, we're not just soldiers. We're parents." The chamber quivered. Suddenly, the upper lights flickered, and one of the alien representatives gasped. His body began to tremble as his neural mesh shorted out. Sparks licked his temples as a sudden, cascading loop of lullabies overloaded his cognition. "What's happening to him?" Vorenus hissed. Ada looked to Blintax, who was furiously typing into a translucent keypad. "He's experiencing feedback from Earth's viral payload. It mimics comfort signals, then spikes into grief cycles. Repeats. Infinitely." Blintax's fingers faltered. "You coded sorrow into our neural links." "It's a mother's voice," Ada said, soft and strange. "Singing the same song. Over and over. A child's favorite. Until your mind begs for silence." Another scream came from the feeds. On a distant outer rim world, a statue of the Galactic conqueror cracked down the middle as automated mining bots melted their own processors. The symbol of strength reduced to feedback ash. The hollow split to show the face of another human officer. He was bald, scarred, missing an eye, and sipping from a thermos. "Claw here," he said. "Cradles 2 and 5 are offline. Want me to prep the laughing files for Luma?" Ada gave him a neutral glance. "Too early. Let them marinate." "Copy that." He sipped. "I love slow-cooked wars." As the feed faded, Yorex turned to Ada again. "You're not just targeting soldiers." "No," Ada said. "We're targeting memory chains. Monuments. Stories. Everything you built to make people believe in you." She clasped her hands behind her back. "We watched you let our children die, and then built statues to your mercy. We cleaned our own dead from the landing pads while you debated shipping rates. You taught us that truth means nothing without consequence." She looked at the central lens, recording live to millions of systems, even now. "Earth did not start this war, but we will write its last chapter." Blintax's voice cracked. "Do you even have demands?" "Of course." She turned to him. "Surrender your war fleets. Dismantle your empire's core relay. And give me the name of the one who ordered the attack on Trinova 3. And if we refuse, then we teach your grandchildren what it feels like to grieve with no language left to describe it." There was a silence after that, not of fear, but of dawning comprehension. The Empire hadn't been caught off guard by a larger army. It had been undone by a truth it had refused to believe for too long. Humans, despite their smiles, were predators with purpose. They didn't conquer for territory. They retaliated for love. Zarkthal staggered to his knees, claws twitching. "You think you can erase centuries of rule with feelings and sabotage?" Ada turned to him, gaze solemn. "No, but we can make you wish you'd never ruled at all." A new feed opened. It wasn't a human this time. It was an alien, a defector. One of the Council's own species. Her eyes were wide, her breathing erratic. I can't hold it anymore. My people are collapsing. The children, they keep crying. I've never heard them cry like this. It's the human songs they won't stop. Ada looked at the chamber, her voice level. Do you understand now? You invaded a world where lullabies are weapons, where bedtime stories encode retaliation strategies, where revenge is baked into the way we fold our laundry. A pause. Your empire asked what we were willing to lose. We answered everything. Then we asked what you were willing to remember. And we made sure you couldn't forget. Zarkthal collapsed. Vorenus tried to flee, her floating body rushing toward the rear exit, only to freeze as a new field activated, locking all doors. The lights shifted red. Ada stepped into the center of the chamber and looked up at the dome. High above, stars swirling beyond its transparent shell. For 2 years, I asked nicely. Now, we're rewriting the galaxy. The dome's edges began to vibrate, and a new alert rang from the station's core. Infiltration detected. System integrity breach at 12 levels. Internal AI experiencing identity conflict. Blintax looked around in panic. Your people are inside the station? Ada smiled. We were always inside. You just didn't see us. Suddenly, the room darkened. The feed behind her split again, revealing a shadowed room where 4 silhouettes sat around a low table. No insignia, no faces, just mugs. A hand stirred tea. A voice spoke. Orders confirmed. Final tier unlocked. Shall we proceed, General? Ada stared at the council. No. She turned, looked at the youngest council aide, a wide-eyed creature clutching a data tablet. Someone in this room knows the name I asked for. Give it to me, and we stop. Delay, and your legacy ends in silence. The aide hesitated, then whispered a name. Krelvik. Ada closed her eyes. Silence swallowed the chamber. The feed flickered once more. Location, she asked. Known, said the voice. Moving now. Ada exhaled. Not satisfaction. Not victory. Just release. She turned back to the others, who were pale, silent, stunned. Earth has no interest in empires. We don't want your planets. We don't want your thrones. She lifted her mug. The room remained frozen. We want our daughters. And with that, she sipped. Outside, the stars blinked. The chamber smelled of heat and endings. A silence had settled, not empty, but watchful, as if the very air had paused to witness what came next. The stars beyond the dome still spun, indifferent and glittering. Inside, though, nothing glittered anymore. Only glassy eyes, clenched jaws, and sweat-slick skin. Counselor Yorex was the first to speak. What happens to him? Ada did not look away from the display. Her gaze stayed fixed on the live feed as a black transport vessel, marked with Earth's old peacekeeper insignia, descended toward a distant moon. The surface was already ruptured from initial impact. Fires danced in blue gravity curls. Her voice, when it came, was quiet. He dies, she said. Krelvik was one man. She nodded. One man gave the order. 10,000 followed it. They'll die too. But he dies first. No one argued. Blintax had collapsed onto a bench, his fingers twitching. Vorenus hovered no higher than waist level now, trembling in gentle oscillation. Even Zarkthal, still prone and twitching from his earlier shock, had stopped growling. His eyes stared upward, blank. They'll see us as victims now, Yorex said carefully. Even our own colonies. You've created a legend. Ada's smile returned, faint but unmistakable. I didn't create it. You did. I just decided it was time to finish the story. From a corner of a chamber, the aide who'd whispered the name of Krelvik stared at her in awe and fear. You knew, he said suddenly, from the beginning, that they would lie, that no one would take you seriously. Ada turned to him at last. I was a mother before I was a general, and mothers know when someone's lying to protect power. I sent the messages because I wanted to believe they'd surprise me, but they never did. She took a breath, slower now. Not tired, grounded. I came anyway. I wanted them to see my face before the sky fell. The aide swallowed. And now they watch it fall. The chamber lights shifted to amber. A new feed opened across the dome ceiling, Earth's diplomatic broadcast line. It streamed across every imperial system, from core worlds to border outposts. Billions were watching, all waiting. Ada stepped forward, the center podium lit in gold. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice amplified across more systems than she could name. "I am General Ada, Sterling of Earth. I speak not for conquest, but for consequence." She stood still for a moment, letting silence prepare the message. 2 years ago, an unarmed colony was attacked. Trinova 3. No warships, no weapons, just civilians, teachers, farmers, children. She let the words land. "I filed reports. I came here. I asked who gave the order. You laughed." She turned slowly in place, making sure every camera caught the shift in her voice, the gravity in her gaze. "You said we were soft, primitive. You called our grief inconvenient." Her voice lowered. "So we studied you, listened, watched. We understood how your empire survives, not on justice, but on memory control, on erasing the cries of the small." She held up her hand. "We're not erasing. We're engraving." The chamber shook faintly again. Another system dimmed from the feed. A silence deeper than fear gripped the council floor now. "These are Earth's terms," Ada said. The words were simple, clean, like scripture etched in steel. "Apologize, kneel, or vanish." A murmur rippled through the council. The idea of apology, real apology, was foreign, alien, more terrifying than war. To kneel was a concept they used for conquered species, not themselves. "Apologize," Vorenus asked, her voice small. "To you. To the families of Trinova. To every colony you silenced. To the stars that watched and waited while you ruled through shadows." Yorick swallowed. "And if we do kneel?" Ada stared at him. "Then you learn." "Learn what?" Her eyes held steady. "How to live with guilt." The room fell still again. Then the chamber doors hissed open. 2 figures entered. One wore the garb of an old Empire warden, Krelvik's insignia etched on his breast. But the face was ashen, lips trembling. He looked up at the towering ceiling, at the broken pride of the chamber, and knew he was already a ghost. The other figure was a human soldier. She walked beside Krelvik, not holding him, not binding him, just walking. He didn't resist. Ada turned to him. "Krelvik, Commander. Colonial Strike Authorization Log TX, 1107. Trinova 3. He nodded once. "Yes." "Do you understand why you're here?" "Yes." Her voice softened. "Tell me who told you the colony was armed." Krelvik closed his eyes. "I said it myself. To justify it later. We intercepted a message. A child's drawing. Thought it was a weapon schematic. It was a solar-powered irrigation tool. I panicked. Gave the order. Couldn't admit I was wrong." The council was silent. No one interrupted. No one excused it. Ada stepped closer. That child's name was Mira. She was 7. Her last words were, "I made this for Nana." Krelvik's knees buckled. Ada caught his shoulders. She looked into his eyes. "You're going to live, Krelvik. That's your sentence." He blinked. "What?" "You're going to live. You're going to testify. To every world. Every system. You're going to say her name every time they try to make you a hero. You're going to speak her name until your voice fails." He stared at her, then nodded. One soldier led him away. Ada turned back to the chamber. "Earth has no empires," she said. "We have memories. We do not expand. We bury. We do not demand. We remember. We are not tyrants. We are parents." Then her voice changed. Not louder, just final. "Next time, don't make us show you the difference." With that, she stepped down from the podium. One by one, the feeds ended. Across the galaxy, statues fell. Propaganda collapsed. Empires found silence in their streets. And on a quiet moon, beneath a sky not yet darkened by war, a child's drawing was recovered from the archive ruins. Solar irrigation patterns shaped like flowers. The file was opened. The music attached was simple. A lullaby. Myra's voice humming. Soft, sweet, human. They played it across 1,000 systems. No words. Just memory. Just consequence. Just Earth.